My name is Eric, and 3 months ago, I thought the biggest problem in my life was my mother's relentless campaign to set me up with every eligible woman in our small Oregon town. At 25, I was apparently reaching critical bachelor status in her eyes, and she'd made it her personal mission to ensure I didn't die alone and childless. The irony, of course, was that I actually was gay, a fact I'd been carefully hiding from my family and most of my friends since high school. Growing up in a conservative small town hadn't exactly created an environment where coming out felt safe or practical. So I'd perfected the art of deflection, making excuses about being too focused on my career as a graphic designer, claiming I was still getting over a fictional ex-girlfriend, or simply changing the subject whenever romance came up. But my mother's matchmaking efforts were becoming increasingly aggressive, and I was running out of creative ways to avoid the blind dates, dinner parties, and coincidental encounters with single women that she orchestrated with military precision. That's how I came up with what seemed like a brilliant solution: get a fake boyfriend. The plan was simple. I'd create a profile on a gay dating app, find someone willing to play along with a fake long-distance relationship, and use this fictional boyfriend as a shield against my mother's romantic ambitions. I'd drop hints about this mysterious man I was seeing, maybe show some carefully curated text conversations, and eventually work up to introducing the idea that I was in a serious relationship with someone who lived far enough away to explain why he was never around. It wasn't the most honest approach, but it seemed like the path of least resistance until I could figure out how to actually come out to my family. I spent an evening crafting what I thought was the perfect fake dating profile. I used recent photos that showed me at my best, wrote a bio that was honest about my interests while being vague about my location, and started swiping through potential fake boyfriends. What I was looking for was someone who seemed intelligent, articulate, and willing to engage in the kind of conversation that would make a convincing relationship narrative. I wasn't looking for anything real. This was purely transactional, a mutually beneficial arrangement where we'd both get the cover of having a boyfriend without any of the actual emotional investment. That's how I matched with Blue-Eyed Architect. His profile was exactly what I was looking for: professional photos that showed an attractive guy with dark blonde hair and blue eyes, a bio that mentioned he was an architect who loved hiking and coffee, and a conversation style that was witty without being overly flirtatious. He seemed like the kind of person my fake relationship could believably be with. Our first conversation was surprisingly easy. I'd been prepared for awkward negotiations about the terms of our fake relationship, but instead we fell into natural banter about work, hobbies, and the general absurdity of online dating. Blue-Eyed Architect: so what brings you to the wonderful world of digital romance? Eric_Designs: honestly, I'm trying to get my family off my back about being single. Figured having a boyfriend might buy me some breathing room. Blue-Eyed Architect: the classic fake boyfriend strategy. I approve. Are you looking for someone to just exist in theory? Or do you need someone who can actually hold a conversation for when people get curious? Eric_Designs: definitely the latter. My mom is way too thorough to be satisfied with vague references to someone I'm seeing. Blue-Eyed Architect: lucky for you. I'm excellent at being charming and mysterious. Plus, I could use some cover myself. My friends have been trying to set me up with every single guy in the city. It was perfect. Blue-Eyed Architect, who told me his name was Brandon, understood exactly what I was looking for, and he seemed to need the same kind of arrangement. We agreed to maintain a fake long-distance relationship that would give both of us the cover we needed. What I didn't expect was how much I would enjoy talking to him. Our conversations quickly moved beyond the logistics of our fake relationship to genuine exchanges about our lives, work, and interests. Brandon was intelligent and funny, with a dry sense of humor that perfectly complemented my own tendency toward sarcasm. He told me about his work designing sustainable housing projects, and I shared stories about my freelance graphic design clients and their increasingly ridiculous requests. Brandon, client update. They want me to design a house that maximizes positive energy flow, but also has a 6-car garage. I'm not sure feng shui and excessive car storage are compatible goals. Eric_designs. That's nothing. I'm currently working on a logo for a yoga studio that needs to be spiritually enlightening, but also edgy. Apparently, inner peace has an aesthetic now. Brandon, how does one make enlightenment edgy? Skulls doing downward dog? Eric_designs. Don't give me ideas. They'll probably love that. Within a week, we were texting throughout the day, sharing photos of our work, making jokes about everything from terrible movie adaptations to the questionable fashion choices of people we encountered. Brandon was easy to talk to in a way that felt natural and unforced. More concerning was the fact that I was starting to look forward to his messages more than I should for what was supposed to be a purely practical arrangement. 2 weeks into our fake relationship, I realized I was developing real feelings for someone I'd never met in person. This wasn't part of the plan. I was supposed to be using Brandon as a convenient cover story, not getting emotionally invested in late-night conversations, and the way he made me laugh, even when I was having terrible days. Brandon, how's the family situation going? Are they buying the mysterious boyfriend story? Eric_designs. Actually, yes. I mentioned I was seeing someone, and my mom immediately shifted into interrogation mode. Asked about your job, your family, how we met, whether you're serious about settling down. Brandon, and what did you tell her? Eric_designs. That you're an architect, you're from the Pacific Northwest, we met through mutual friends, and yes, things are getting serious. She seemed satisfied with the level of detail. Brandon, Pacific Northwest, huh? That's oddly specific. Eric_designs. I had to give her something concrete. Plus, it explains why you're not around for family dinners and random drop-bys. Brandon, smart thinking. For the record, I am actually from the Pacific Northwest. Small world. Something about that exchange stuck with me. Brandon had mentioned being from the Pacific Northwest several times, and some of the places he referenced in our conversations were familiar in a way that suggested local knowledge rather than just tourist information. But I was probably reading too much into it. The Pacific Northwest was a big region, and it wasn't uncommon for people to have detailed knowledge about areas they didn't actually live in. Still, I found myself paying closer attention to the details Brandon shared about his life, looking for clues about his actual location and identity. It was probably just curiosity, but part of me was starting to want this fake relationship to be real in ways that went far beyond our original arrangement. A month into our daily conversations, Brandon surprised me with a question that changed everything. Brandon, Eric, can I ask you something personal? Eric_designs. Sure. Brandon, is this fake relationship arrangement working for you? Because I have to admit, I'm starting to wish it was real. I stared at my phone, unsure how to respond. Brandon had just articulated exactly what I'd been feeling, but hadn't been brave enough to say. Eric_designs. What do you mean? Brandon, I mean I look forward to talking to you every day. I mean I find myself telling you things I don't tell anyone else. I mean I'm developing real feelings for someone I was supposed to be fake dating. Eric_designs. Brandon, I've been feeling the same way. This was supposed to be practical, but it doesn't feel practical anymore. Brandon, so what do we do about it? Eric_designs. I don't know. We've never even met in person. For all I know, you could be a completely different person than who you present yourself as online. Brandon, same could be said about you. But Eric, what if we weren't? What if we met in person and discovered that what we've built through these conversations is real? Eric_designs. That's a big what if. Brandon, it is. But I think it's worth finding out. Don't you? I spent the rest of the evening thinking about Brandon's question. We've been talking for a month, sharing details about our daily lives, developing inside jokes and comfortable routines. In many ways, I felt closer to him than I had to anyone I'd actually dated in person. But meeting in person would make everything real in ways that might be wonderful or catastrophic. What if we didn't have chemistry face to face? What if one of us was disappointed by the reality of the other? What if this thing we built through screens and text messages couldn't survive actual proximity? On the other hand, what if it could? Eric_designs. Okay, let's meet. Brandon, really? Eric_designs. Really? But I have one condition. Brandon, name it. Eric_designs. We do this properly. Not some casual coffee meetup, where we can easily escape if things are awkward. A real date. Dinner, conversation, the full commitment to giving this a genuine chance. Brandon, I like that idea. Are you free this Saturday? Eric_designs. Yes. But Brandon, I should probably tell you, I live in a pretty small town. Not a lot of options for fancy dinner dates. Brandon, what town? Eric_designs. Cedar Falls, Oregon. Population 8,000. One good restaurant. And everyone knows everyone else's business. There was a long pause before Brandon's next message appeared. Brandon. Eric, this is going to sound crazy, but what's your last name? Eric_designs. Thompson. Why? Brandon, because I think I know exactly who you are. My heart stopped. Eric_designs. What do you mean? Brandon, I think we went to high school together. Cedar Falls High, class of 2016. Eric_designs. Who is this? Brandon, it's Brandon Mitchell. We had AP English together senior year. You sat 2 rows behind me, and you always had the best insights during class discussions about whatever book we were reading. I stared at my phone in complete shock. Brandon Mitchell. I remembered him perfectly, tall, blonde, athletic, one of the popular kids who was somehow also genuinely nice to everyone. He'd been student body president, played varsity soccer, and had dated Sarah Chun for most of senior year. Brandon Mitchell, who I'd had a secret crush on throughout high school, but never imagined would even remember my name, let alone be interested in dating guys. Eric_designs. Brandon Mitchell, who dated Sarah Chun? Brandon Mitchell, who gave the graduation speech about following your dreams? Brandon, that's me. Eric Thompson, who was always reading during lunch, who wrote that incredible essay about symbolism in The Great Gatsby that made Mrs. Rodriguez cry. Eric_designs. I can't believe this. Brandon, neither can I. Eric, I had the biggest crush on you in high school. Eric_designs. You what? Brandon, I spent senior year trying to figure out how to talk to you outside of class. You were smart and funny and had this way of seeing things that made me wish I was brave enough to ask you out. Eric_designs. But you were dating Sarah. Brandon, I was dating Sarah because that's what people expected. Because I was terrified of admitting I was gay in a town where that wasn't exactly accepted. Sound familiar? Eric_designs. This is insane. Brandon. Eric, we've been having the relationship I wished we could have had in high school. Getting to know each other without all the social pressure and expectations. And it's been amazing. I thought back through our month of conversations, all the moments when Brandon had seemed familiar in ways I couldn't quite place. The sense of humor that reminded me of someone I couldn't identify. The references to places and people that suggested local knowledge. The way he approached problems and described his thoughts that felt comfortable and known. I'd been developing feelings for my high school crush without even realizing it. Eric_designs. So what happens now? Brandon, now we have that dinner date we planned. But instead of meeting a stranger, you get to catch up with someone you've known for years. Brandon, unless this is too weird. I understand if you want to back out. Eric_designs. Brandon, are you kidding? I spent all of senior year wishing I had the courage to talk to you. I'm not backing out now. Brandon, good. Because I've been looking forward to this date for about 7 years. We decided to meet at Romano's, the one upscale restaurant in Cedar Falls, on Saturday evening. It would be our first time seeing each other in person since graduation, and our first time interacting as the people we actually were rather than the people we pretended to be in high school. I spent Saturday afternoon in a state of nervous excitement that made it impossible to concentrate on anything. I must have changed clothes 4 times, trying to find something that looked like I'd made an effort without seeming like I was trying too hard. Finally, I settled on dark jeans and a button-down shirt that I hoped struck the right balance between casual and date-appropriate. I arrived at Romano's 5 minutes early and asked for a table in the back corner where we'd have some privacy for what was sure to be an emotionally complex conversation. The restaurant was small enough that privacy was relative, but at least we wouldn't be sitting directly in the middle of the local gossip network. Brandon arrived exactly on time, and seeing him walk through the restaurant door was like a punch to the chest. He was taller than I remembered, broader through the shoulders, but still recognizably the boy I'd secretly watched throughout senior year. His blonde hair was shorter now, more professional, and he carried himself with the confidence of someone who'd grown comfortable with who he was. When our eyes met across the restaurant, his face lit up with a smile that was purely genuine, and I felt something in my chest relax that I hadn't realized was tense. "Eric," he said, reaching our table and extending his hand for a shake that turned into an impulsive hug. "You look exactly the same, but better. So do you. Though you're definitely taller than I remembered." Growth spurt in college. I hit 6'2" junior year and finally stopped tripping over my own feet. We sat down, and there was a moment of awkwardness as we both processed the surreal nature of the situation. Here we were, two people who'd been having an intimate emotional relationship for a month, suddenly face to face as themselves for the first time. "This is strange," Brandon said, echoing my thoughts. "Good strange or bad strange?" "Good strange. Really good strange." "Eric, I have to tell you something." "What?" "Sitting across from you right now, I'm remembering exactly why I had such a crush on you in high school. You have this way of looking at people like you're really seeing them, not just the surface version they present to the world. I could say the same about you. You were always kind to people, even when it wasn't socially advantageous. I remember you standing up for David Kim when those guys were giving him grief about being in drama club. You remember that? I remember a lot of things about you. I just never thought you'd remember anything about me." Brandon reached across the table and took my hand, a gesture that felt both new and familiar. "Eric, I noticed you constantly. You were this quiet, intelligent person who seemed to see everything but never felt the need to prove how smart you were. You were genuine in a way that most of us weren't brave enough to be. And you were this popular, successful person who somehow managed to be genuinely nice instead of just performing niceness. Do you know how rare that is? Apparently rare enough that we both spent 7 years thinking about what might have been. We ordered dinner and spent the next 2 hours catching up on everything that had happened since graduation. Brandon had gone to college in California, studied architecture as planned, and spent several years working for a firm in San Francisco before moving back to Oregon to start his own practice focused on sustainable design. "I moved back about 6 months ago," he said, "partly because I missed the Pacific Northwest, but mostly because I was tired of living in a place where I didn't know anyone and no one knew me. I wanted to be somewhere that felt like home." "And you chose to come back to Cedar Falls?" "I chose to come back to the general area. I actually live about an hour away, in Portland. Close enough to visit family, far enough away that I don't run into high school classmates at the grocery store. Present company accepted. Present company very much accepted." I told Brandon about my path since graduation, community college, then art school, building a freelance graphic design business that let me work with clients anywhere while staying close to family. I'd considered moving to a bigger city, but the combination of low cost of living and family obligations had kept me in Cedar Falls. "Do you ever regret staying?" Brandon asked. "Sometimes. There aren't a lot of opportunities here, and the social scene isn't exactly thriving for someone like me. But it's home, and I like being close to my parents, even when my mother drives me crazy with her matchmaking attempts." "How is that going, by the way? Are you planning to tell her about your boyfriend?" The question was asked with a smile, but there was something serious underneath it. We'd spent the evening reconnecting as old friends, but we hadn't really addressed the elephant in the room, what our fake relationship meant now that we knew who each other really were. "Brandon, I need to ask you something." "Shoot. What are we doing here?" "I mean, We started talking because we both needed fake boyfriends, but now we know each other's real identities. Are we still pretending, or is this something else? Brandon was quiet for a moment, considering his answer. What do you want it to be? I want it to be real. I want to keep getting to know you, not as a convenient cover story, but as someone I'm genuinely interested in dating. But I also don't want to assume that's what you want just because we have history. Eric, I've spent the last month falling for you through text messages and phone calls. Sitting here with you now, seeing your expressions and hearing your laugh in person, I'm falling even harder. This doesn't feel like pretending to me. It doesn't feel like pretending to me either. So we make it real. We stop calling it fake and start calling it what it actually is. Which is, two people who cared about each other in high school, found each other again by accident, and discovered that sometimes the best relationships start with pretending and become real when you're not looking. Brandon paid for dinner despite my protests, and we walked slowly back to our cars, neither of us ready for the evening to end. Eric, Brandon said as we reached my car, I know this is moving fast, and I know we have a lot to figure out about logistics and timing and what this means for both our lives. But I don't want to wait another 7 years to see what could happen between us. I'd like to do this properly. Actual dates, real conversations about our future, meeting each other's friends and family. I'd like that too. Though I should warn you, my mother is going to be insufferably smug about the fact that her son is finally in a serious relationship. Will she be okay with the fact that it's with a man? It was a fair question, and one I'd been avoiding thinking about. I don't know, but I'm tired of hiding who I am from the people I love. This feels like the right time to find out. Brandon stepped closer, close enough that I could see the flecks of gold in his blue eyes. Eric, can I kiss you? Please. The kiss was soft and tentative at first, then deeper as we both relaxed into it. Brandon tasted like wine and possibility, and when we broke apart, I felt like something fundamental had shifted in my understanding of what I wanted from life. I've been wanting to do that since senior year, Brandon murmured against my lips. It was worth the wait. 3 months later, Brandon and I had settled into a relationship that felt both new and comfortably familiar. He drove down from Portland most weekends, and I spent some weeknights at his apartment in the city. We'd told our respective families about each other. My parents were adjusting to having a gay son better than I'd expected, and Brandon's family was just happy he was finally dating someone they approved of. Any regrets about the fake boyfriend scheme? Brandon asked one evening as we cooked dinner together in his apartment, moving around each other in the kitchen with practiced ease. About accidentally catfishing my high school crush into a real relationship? Not a single one. Even though it started with both of us lying about what we wanted, we weren't lying about what we wanted. We were just confused about who we wanted it with. Brandon laughed, pulling me close for a kiss that tasted like the sauce he'd been stirring. I love that we have the weirdest meet-cute story of anyone we know. Hey, it's romantic. Two people who missed their chance in high school find each other again through the magic of modern technology and elaborate deception. When you put it that way, it does sound pretty romantic. As we settled in to eat the dinner we'd prepared together, I marveled at how completely my life had changed since I'd first created that dating profile. I'd started looking for a fake boyfriend to solve a practical problem, and instead found real love with someone I'd been dreaming about for years. Brandon, I said as we cleaned up after dinner, I need to tell you something. What's that? I'm completely in love with you. Not fake love, not convenient love, not nostalgic love. Real, complicated, want to build a life together love. Brandon's smile was radiant. Good, because I'm completely in love with you too. And Eric, yeah, I think we should probably cancel our dating app accounts. I have a feeling we won't be needing them anymore. Already done. Turns out when you find what you're actually looking for, you don't need to keep pretending to look for something else. As we settled onto Brandon's couch to watch a movie, his arm around me and my head on his shoulder, I realized that sometimes the best relationships start with the worst plans. Sometimes pretending to be something you're not helps you figure out who you actually are. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, the person you're pretending to love turns out to be the person you were meant to love all along.